The Kingdom of Valleria and Princess Kalila. Introduction to the Kingdom of Valleria. The Kingdom of Valleria was a land of unmatched beauty and prosperity. Nestled between emerald forests and crystal-clear rivers, the kingdom's vast landscape stretched as far as the eye could see. The castle, perched on a high hill, gleamed like a beacon in the sunlight, its tower soaring above the land. The people of Valleria were known for their wealth, craftsmanship, and harmony, making it one of the most powerful kingdoms in the region. King Darian, a ruler of great wisdom and strength, and Queen Celestia, known for her kindness and fairness, were beloved by the people. Together, they had one child, a daughter named Princess Kalila, who was the pride of their hearts. From the moment she was born, it was clear that Kalila was destined for greatness. Her beauty was said to rival the sunrise itself, her mind sharp and full of knowledge, and her grace could charm even the most hardened of hearts. But despite her many gifts, there was a mystery that surrounded the princess. Her heart, unlike the hearts of those around her, had never been claimed. Kalila was admired by all, but no suitor had ever won her favor. This secret became a subject of gossip throughout the kingdom. What was it that made the princess so unreachable? Was she simply too proud? Or was there something more at play? Princess Kalila's struggle. Kalila's beauty and intelligence attracted suitors from all corners of the world. Princes from distant lands, warriors with legendary skills, and scholars with vast knowledge all came to seek her hand in marriage. Each suitor believed they could be the one to win her heart. They offered her riches, their loyalty, their love, but Kalila turned them all away. One by one, they came and went, each leaving the palace disappointed, their hopes dashed. The courtiers whispered among themselves, wondering what it was about the princess that made her so impossible to win. Was she cursed? Was her heart forever locked away from the world? Kalila, in truth, felt the pressure building around her. She had always known that one day she would be expected to choose a husband. But the more she watched the men around her, the more she realized that none of them seemed to understand her true desires. She longed for something deeper than superficial charm, something beyond titles and wealth. And so, she rejected them all, each one in turn. Rumors spread like wildfire. Princess Kalila is cursed, they said. She will never be tamed by any man. But in the quiet moments of her life, Kalila wondered, was it her own heart that was cursed? Or had she simply been waiting for someone who truly understood her? The king's dilemma. As the years passed and the princess remained unmarried, King Darian began to feel the weight of his kingdom's expectations. He knew that the people loved his daughter, but they also grew restless. Whispers filled the air. Why hadn't the princess chosen a suitor? Was she rejecting the kingdom's future? The elders, once patient, began to question whether the gods themselves were displeased with the princess's decisions. If Kalila didn't choose a husband soon, it was feared that the kingdom would lose favor in the eyes of the gods. King Darian, deeply troubled by the unrest, called for a meeting with his advisors. He understood the gravity of the situation, not only for his daughter but for the future of Valleria. After much deliberation, the king decided to issue a challenge, one that would draw suitors from far and wide, not just to claim the princess's hand, but to prove they were worthy of her heart. The man who can win my daughter's heart shall have the reward of half my kingdom, King Darian announced, his voice strong and commanding. But if he fails, he must leave Valleria and never return. The challenge sent ripples of excitement throughout the land. News spread quickly, and suitors of all kinds, noblemen, warriors, and commoners, began to arrive at the castle, each believing they were the one who could break through the princess's walls. The court buzzed with anticipation as one after another, men from across the lands lined up to claim what they all believed was rightfully theirs. The stage was set. Kalila's heart was a prize to be won, but none knew the true cost of such a conquest. The challenge would reveal more than the suitors expected, and perhaps even more than the princess herself could have imagined. The challengers arrive. The first suitor, Prince Valle. Prince Valen was a towering figure, his broad shoulders and strong frame making him appear larger than life. Dressed in royal armor adorned with the insignia of his kingdom, he strode into the palace with an air of pride that matched his size. His presence commanded attention, and the court watched in awe as he approached the throne where Princess Kalila sat. With a deep, booming voice, Prince Valen began his boastful tale. "I have crossed vast seas, slain fierce dragons, and conquered every battlefield that stood before me," he declared, his chest swelling with pride. "There is no force in this world that can stand against me, and no creature I cannot defeat. Surely, I am the man worthy of your heart, Princess Kalila." Kalila listened in silence, her face a calm mask, betraying no hint of admiration. She studied Valen's words carefully, but nothing in them stirred her heart. When he finally asked for her hand in marriage, she responded without hesitation. "What do you seek in a partner, Prince Valen?" she asked softly, her voice laced with curiosity. Valen, taken aback by the question, hesitated for a moment before replying, "I seek a woman who knows her place, a woman who will stand beside me, support my strength, and bow to my will." Kalila's eyes narrowed, and a faint smile appeared on her lips. She stood from her seat, her movements graceful and deliberate. "Do you believe that strength alone is enough to win my heart?" she asked. The prince's chest puffed out even more as he proudly declared, "Of course, what else is there?" Kalila's smile faded as she stepped closer to him. "Then why do your hands shake when you speak?" she asked, her voice cool and unyielding. The prince looked down in shock. His hands were trembling, betraying the fear he had hidden beneath his bravado. His pride shattered in an instant, and he turned away in shame, his face reddening as he hastily retreated from the room. The court was silent as the first suitor failed, leaving the palace defeated and humiliated. The second suitor, Lord Alistair. Next came Lord Alistair, a wealthy merchant from the southern lands, dressed in luxurious silks embroidered with gold and adorned with sparkling jewels. His fingers, heavy with rings, glistened as he bowed low before Princess Kalila, a confident smile on his lips. "I can give you everything your heart desires, Princess," he said in a smooth voice, his eyes gleaming with ambition. "Riches beyond measure, fine silks from distant lands, jewels that sparkle like the stars. You will never want for anything again. I can offer you wealth, comfort, and security." Kalila listened intently, but her expression remained unchanged. When he finished, she asked, "What is wealth if it cannot buy love? Can your riches fill the emptiness that lies within my heart?" Lord Alistair faltered. His wealth had always been his greatest asset, but he could see now that it held no value in her eyes. But I can offer you everything," he stammered, but his words lost their weight. Kalila shook her head, a soft yet firm rejection. "Gold and jewels may impress the eyes, but they cannot reach the heart. You have nothing to offer me that I truly seek." The merchant's face fell, and without another word, he turned and walked away, his head low in disappointment. His wealth had been no match for the princess's heart, and he left the palace defeated, just as the others had. The third suitor, Sir Cedric. The third suitor to arrive was Sir Cedric, a knight of great renown with a history of battles and victories. His armor was polished to perfection, and his sword hung proudly at his side. He entered the palace with a grand flourish, his confidence evident in every step he took. He had fought in countless wars and earned his title through blood and honor, and now, he believed, he could claim the heart of the princess. "I am Sir Cedric," he declared, his voice commanding and sure. "I have faced the fiercest of enemies and survived the harshest of trials. I swear to you, Princess Kalila, that I will protect you forever, and no harm shall ever come to you while I stand by your side." Kalila listened, her gaze steady as she studied him. "What do you fear most, Sir Cedric?" she asked, her tone soft but piercing. The question caught the knight off guard. For a moment, he was speechless, his strong demeanor faltering as he pondered the question. Then, his eyes grew distant, and a shadow passed over his face. I fear that I am not enough. That no matter how hard I fight, I will lose the things I hold most dear. Kalila observed him closely, her eyes sharp. She saw his vulnerability, the cracks in his armor that no sword could protect. With a quiet smile, she said, "It is not strength alone that makes a man worthy. It is the courage to face your own fears." Sir Cedric's shoulders slumped, and he hung his head in shame. He had always believed that his battles would prove his worth, but now he saw that true strength came from within. Unable to meet the princess's eyes, he turned and left the palace, his heart heavy with humility. Kalila's gaze followed him as he walked away, and once again, the court was left in stunned silence. Each suitor, no matter their strength, wealth, or honor, had failed in their attempt to win Princess Kalila's heart. She had watched them stumble, their pride and arrogance unraveling in her presence. And though they came with grand promises, it became clear that none understood what it was she truly sought, a man who could look beyond the surface and understand the depths of her heart. As the court watched the suitors depart in failure, the tension in the air grew thick. The challenge had not been won, and the people of Valleria began to wonder, could there truly be a man who could claim the princess's heart, the arrival of Zephyr? Just when it seemed as though every suitor had failed, a figure appeared in the courtyard of Valleria's grand castle, unlike any other who had come before. His name was Zephyr, and he was not dressed in the finest silks nor adorned with shining armor. Instead, he wore simple, unassuming clothing, as though he had traveled far with no care for wealth or status. His entrance did not come with fanfare or boastful words, but with a quiet strength that seemed to demand attention. As he walked through the grand hall, the court fell into an eerie silence. His presence was like a calm breeze amidst the storm of expectation surrounding Princess Kalila. He did not bow to the king or lower his gaze to the princess. Instead, his eyes, dark as the night, remained fixed on Kalila with an intensity that no one in the room could ignore. There was something about him that felt different from the others, a stillness that was almost unsettling. King Darian, both confused and angered by the audacity of such an entry, stood from his throne. His voice thundered through the hall. "Who are you to enter our court in this manner? Where are your titles, your riches? What is it that you seek here?" Zephyr did not flinch at the king's words. He simply stood tall, meeting the king's gaze with quiet confidence. "I am no prince, no nobleman," he said, his voice calm but strong. "But I am a man who seeks truth." The court murmured in disbelief. This was a man who dared speak directly to the king, unafraid, without the titles or grandeur that others had worn as armor. Zephyr's simplicity was both humbling and striking. Princess Kalila, intrigued by the man who had broken the silence of the court, stepped forward. Her voice was soft, but it carried the weight of the questions that had been on her mind for years. "What is it that you seek in me, Zephyr?" she asked, her gaze searching his face for any sign of pride or arrogance. Zephyr's response was gentle yet unyielding. "I seek to understand what you truly desire, princess. I do not come to conquer you, nor to claim your heart with empty promises. I come to see if I can truly connect with your soul. I wish to know you, not as a prize to be won, but as a person to be understood." There was a quiet stir among the courtiers, for no man had ever spoken to the princess like this. No one had ever questioned her desires so openly. Kalila, for the first time, felt something stir within her, a curiosity, perhaps even a flicker of hope. Was this man different from the others? Did he truly seek to understand her, not just win her hand? Zephyr's response. Zephyr's words hung in the air, their weight settling over the room like a still moment before a storm. Kalila could feel the truth in them, something raw and real that the others had never offered. The princes, knights, and merchants had all come with their promises, their displays of power, wealth, and strength. But Zephyr, with no titles or wealth to offer, had come with something far more powerful, an invitation to see the truth of who she was, beyond the crown, beyond the expectations. King Darian, his curiosity now piqued despite his initial anger, raised an eyebrow. His voice was quieter now, though still commanding. You seek truth, you say? What makes you believe that you can find it here, in the heart of my daughter? Zephyr did not falter. Because truth is not found in grand gestures or in titles, Your Majesty. It is found in the quiet moments, in understanding the heart's true desires, not just what is expected of it. I seek to know what lies within her, not what the world demands of her. The court was silent again. For the first time in many years, someone had challenged the very foundation of what it meant to win the princess's heart. No gifts, no riches, no promises of power, just a simple desire to understand. Kalila, captivated by his words, asked again, her voice a little softer this time, and what will you do if you do not find what you seek? Zephyr's eyes met hers with unwavering calm. Then I will leave, and I will never return, he said simply. The king's challenge. King Darian, who had watched as each suitor failed in their own way, was now intrigued by the stranger's boldness and sincerity. Yet, he was not one to let things come easily. He could not allow anyone to think that the throne could be won so easily. I will not have you waste my daughter's time, the king declared. You will spend one night in her chambers, and if you leave as all others have, defeated and empty-handed, you will never step foot in this kingdom again. The court gasped. This was a challenge like no other. The other suitors had failed at this very test, but Zephyr did not flinch. There was no sign of hesitation, no sign of nervousness. His calm demeanor remained unchanged. I accept, Zephyr said, his voice firm, his gaze never leaving the princess's eyes. Kalila felt a wave of something. Was it excitement? Apprehension? She could not tell. For the first time, she felt a real test was about to unfold. This man, this stranger, had come without expectation of conquest, and yet, the challenge now placed before him was one that none before him had ever truly passed. As Zephyr was led toward the princess's chambers, the court murmured in quiet anticipation. What would happen? Could this man, who sought only to understand, pass the test that all others had failed? The silence in the room was deafening as the doors closed behind him, leaving the palace in an uneasy stillness. Princess Kalila, now more uncertain than ever, remained at her seat, her eyes fixed on the doors. She did not know what to expect from Zephyr, but she could not shake the feeling that something within her was changing. For the first time in her life, she had met a man who did not want to conquer her, but to understand her. Would this man, Zephyr, be the one to finally open her heart? The silent conversation. Princess Kalila led Zephyr through the grand corridors of the palace, her footsteps echoing in the silence. She had never allowed herself to feel so vulnerable, yet here she was, guiding a man into her private chambers, not knowing what to expect. The air between them felt heavy, charged with an energy she could not place. Each step she took seemed to draw them closer, and yet the space between them remained untouched, like a fine thread stretched taut, pulling them together but leaving no room for the rush of words or gestures. Zephyr followed her without a word. His calm presence was a stark contrast to the flurry of thoughts racing in her mind. He did not look at her with desire or admiration, nor did he cower before her royal stature. He walked beside her as if he were walking in a quiet forest, surrounded by nothing but the sound of the leaves in the wind. Kalila, who had spent her life commanding attention, now found herself unsure of what to say. All the men who had courted her before had followed her every command, tried to impress her with their displays of power or wealth. They had either fawned over her or boasted in arrogance. But Zephyr was different. He did not see her as a prize to be won, nor did he seek to prove his worth through grand gestures. His silence spoke volumes, but Kalila, for the first time, did not know how to read it. She felt the unfamiliar sensation of questioning him. What did he want from her? Why was he so unshaken, so certain in his calmness? It was unsettling, yet there was something about it that made her want to know more, to understand. As they entered her chambers, she turned toward him, her voice barely a whisper. "Why do you remain silent?" she asked, her curiosity laced with confusion. "Do you not desire anything from me? My beauty, my title, my hand?" Zephyr met her gaze, his eyes steady but not cold. "I desire nothing from you, princess, except your truth. I do not seek to conquer your heart, but to understand it." For the first time in her life, Kalila was met with a response she could not predict, a response that did not fit the mold of what men usually sought from her. She stood there, taking in his words, and the silence between them grew thicker, heavier. It was as though the very air around them was waiting for something more to be said, something to break the tension, something that would reveal what was truly happening in this moment. Kalila, unable to contain the storm of thoughts and feelings inside her, spoke again, her voice quiet but sharp. "What are you really looking for, Zephyr? Do you not want me?" she asked, her heart racing. There was an edge of uncertainty in her tone, something she rarely allowed herself to express. Zephyr's eyes softened, but his answer was unyielding. "I am not here to claim you. I am here to understand you. To see past the walls you have built, not to break them, but to find the truth behind them." Kalila was taken aback by his response. She had spent so many years carefully guarding her heart, building walls high and strong, yet here was a man who did not seek to destroy them, but to understand why they existed in the first place. She felt a wave of emotion rise within her, confusion, vulnerability, and something else she could not name. The moment of truth. Kalila stood in the center of her chambers, her heart pounding in her chest. She had always been in control, always the one who determined the course of events. Yet, in Zephyr's presence, she felt the power shift. It was no longer about her playing the game or controlling the outcome. For the first time, she felt as though she was no longer the one pulling the strings. Her mind raced as she searched for the words to express what was happening inside her. But before she could speak, Zephyr did something unexpected. He took a step forward, his movement slow and deliberate, but not aggressive. He closed the distance between them without making her feel cornered or pressured. Kalila, her breath shallow, finally found her voice. "What do you seek from me, Zephyr? Why have you come?" Her words felt heavy, like a question she had been avoiding for years. Zephyr's gaze never wavered. He was calm, steady, and his voice was low but filled with sincerity. "I seek only honesty. I do not come to claim your heart, nor to demand your love. Your heart, as much as it has been guarded, can still be unlocked with trust. But that trust must be given willingly, not forced, not demanded with pride, but earned with understanding." Kalila felt the truth of his words like a weight in her chest. It was not the words of conquest, nor the promises of protection and security. It was a quiet, simple truth, a desire to understand her, not to control her. For the first time, she felt something stir within her. Something unfamiliar, something real. She had been the one in control for so long, testing the limits of the men who came to her. She had watched them fall, one by one, beneath the weight of her expectations. But here was Zephyr, standing before her, not broken by her walls, not intimidated by her power. He simply stood, waiting for her to decide if she would open herself to him. And in that moment, Kalila realized something profound. She had been guarding her heart not because she feared others would take it, but because she feared what would happen if she allowed herself to feel something real. She had built walls to protect herself from the pain of loss, but now, standing before Zephyr, she wondered if the walls had kept her from living fully. Without fully understanding why, Kalila stepped forward. For the first time in her life, she let her guard down. She felt her walls crack, not because she was forced to, but because she finally realized that perhaps the greatest strength was in being vulnerable, in allowing herself to trust. As she closed the distance between them, she met Zephyr's eyes, her voice barely above a whisper. "I do not know if I can trust you, but I will try. For the first time, I will try." Zephyr's expression softened, and for a moment, the air between them seemed to settle, as though the universe itself had paused in recognition of the shift that had taken place. Kalila was no longer in control of everything. She was allowing herself to be seen, to be understood. The night stretched on, but neither spoke. The silence was no longer thick with tension, but filled with the promise of something new, a beginning, not an end. And as the first light of dawn began to creep through the windows, Kalila knew one thing for certain: the walls she had built to protect her heart were no longer needed. Because, for the first time, she had allowed herself to be free the morning after. The first light of dawn broke through the tall windows of the princess's chambers, casting a soft, golden glow on the room. Princess Kalila awoke to find Zephyr standing silently by the window, his silhouette framed by the rising sun. The night had passed in silence, but it had been a night like no other. For the first time, Kalila had allowed herself to let down her walls, to surrender to the vulnerability she had spent years protecting herself from. As she sat up, she could feel the weight of the decision before her. The choice that she had never thought she would have to make, to embrace the unknown or to retreat back into the familiar safety of her pride. The stillness of the room was not oppressive, but filled with a quiet, unspoken understanding. Zephyr, though he had said little throughout the night, now turned to her with eyes that reflected the calm confidence she had come to trust. His gaze was not that of a conqueror, nor of a man waiting for her to make a decision. It was the gaze of someone who understood the weight of the moment, but also knew that the choice was hers to make. He had never sought to control her, never sought to claim her heart, but had instead offered her the one thing she had been seeking without realizing it: genuine connection. Kalila looked at him, her thoughts racing. She had spent so much of her life trying to control everything: her kingdom, her future, her heart. She had rejected countless suitors, not because they weren't worthy, but because she had feared what would happen if she allowed herself to feel. But now, standing beside Zephyr, she realized that she had been hiding behind her own pride. She had closed herself off from love, from connection, because she feared the vulnerability that came with it. Yet now, something had shifted. She felt no fear, no hesitation, only clarity. For the first time, she was ready to let go of her control, to embrace the unknown. Zephyr had shown her that true love is not about power or pride, but about understanding, trust, and the willingness to be vulnerable. The price of love. As the day unfolded, word spread throughout the palace that Princess Kalila would finally make her decision. The court, eagerly awaiting the outcome of the challenge, buzzed with anticipation. Many wondered if Zephyr would live like all the others, defeated and broken. Others whispered that the princess would once again reject him, as she had rejected all the suitors before him. But Kalila, standing before the court, felt a quiet strength within her that she had never felt before. Her eyes were no longer clouded with doubt or uncertainty. She had made her choice, not out of duty, but because she had finally understood what it was that she had been searching for all along. She stepped forward, her voice steady and clear, echoing throughout the hall. "I have spent my life searching for someone who could see beyond my title, my beauty, my crown. I have longed for a connection that goes deeper than what the world expects of me." Her gaze met Zephyr's, and a soft smile touched her lips. Zephyr, unlike the others, did not try to conquer me. He asked only that I be myself. And in that, I have found what I was looking for all along. The court fell silent. The realization that the princess, who had rejected every suitor before him, had chosen Zephyr was met with shock and awe. But for Kalila, it was no longer about choosing the man who could offer her the most wealth, power, or strength. It was about finding someone who could offer her something far more valuable: genuine love, without pride, without pretense. Zephyr's true identity. As the whisper settled and the people of Valleria looked on, Zephyr stepped forward, his expression calm but filled with something deeper, something that had been hidden beneath his quiet demeanor. He turned to Princess Kalila, and with a soft exhale, he revealed the truth. "I am not a prince, nor a nobleman," Zephyr began, his voice steady but filled with humility. "I am a wandering sage, a seeker of wisdom. I have traveled the world not to claim power or land, but to understand life, to understand people, to understand the heart. I came not to claim you, princess, but to help you find what you had lost, to help you see beyond the walls you had built around your heart." Kalila's eyes widened in surprise. She had suspected that Zephyr was no ordinary man, but she had never imagined that he was not a prince or nobleman. In that moment, she realized the full depth of his journey, the true purpose of his presence in her life. He had not come to win her heart with gifts or titles, he had come to show her something more valuable, truth. With his words, the final lesson was learned. Love, Kalila understood now, cannot be won through pride, wealth, or strength. It is not about conquering the other person, nor about expecting something in return. It is about understanding, trust, and the willingness to be vulnerable. Zephyr had taught her that love is not something to be claimed or controlled, but something to be shared, freely and openly. Kalila stepped closer to Zephyr, her heart full. "I do not need a crown to know what I have found," she said, her voice soft but filled with conviction. "In you, I have found the greatest treasure." Zephyr smiled, his eyes warm with affection. He reached out, taking her hand in his. And in that moment, the world around them seemed to fade away. The palace, the court, the kingdom, none of it mattered anymore. What mattered was the bond they had formed, not through titles or wealth, but through understanding and trust. Together, they stood there, side by side, ready to face whatever the future held. For Kalila had learned that true love was not about being crowned or winning a prize. It was about being seen, being understood, and choosing to open your heart to someone who could see you for who you truly were. And so, with the dawning of a new day, the princess and the sage began a new chapter of their lives, together, not as a conqueror and a prize, but as equals, united by the truth they had both found in each other.